Welcome to the Put On Waivers Media Group, home of the Put On Raiders podcast and the Student Body Right podcast. This is your place for the best breakdowns and the best insight for those who fight on and bleed silver and black. Now, here are your hosts, Dwayne Douglas and Ryan Holmes.
And welcome everybody to the glorious episode of the Put On Raiders podcast. I'm your host, Dwayne Douglas, and along with Ryan Holmes, and we are podcasting out the beautiful shores of the Pacific Ocean. Beautiful day out here in Southern California. Sunny, all that good stuff. RTPW podcast is my Twitter handle, and RHOLM22 is Ryan's. Ryan, how you doing today?
I'm doing good. I'm glad to be back in California. I was in the Midwest last week, but good to be back. 70 degrees outside, no humidity, and best of all, no rain. So
I was wondering if you were going to move, so I'm happy that you're back and you staying in Southern California. I was worried about that for a little bit. Oh man. So we don't start off with Raider news. We start off with Tampa Bay Buccaneers news. The Buccaneers have signed Akeem Hicks 1 year, 10-year deal. And then everybody in Raider land starts posting the picture of Charles Barkley and Ndamukong Suh with the Raider jacket on. Do you feel like this is going to be something that's, the Raiders are going to? There's definitely a guy. He's definitely on their radar right now. I mean, they want that interior pass rush, a guy who can go get the quarterback on third down. If they have a bunch of defensive tackle bodies, he could definitely be a guy who helps them, right?
Yeah, they need a guy that's inside that could play, either the 5 technique or 3 technique when they got a 4-down lineman. And rush the passer on the inside. And they have a bunch of bodies, like you said. None of them are really proven to his level. Because of the number of bodies they have, he doesn't have to play a ton of snaps. They can use him when they need him, which would be on third downs or past second and long. He doesn't have to go in there and play every down. I think if they went Akeem Hicks 1 year, $10 million, I would have to assume they had a similar contract on the table for Suh, which to me would mean he's looking for a little bit more than that. After playing for a little bit less than that on the last 3 1-year deals with Tampa, I would have to assume they would prefer Suh over Hicks just for durability. Suh's missed 2 games in his entire career, and Hicks has basically missed half of 2 of the last 3 seasons due to injury. But if that lands him in Las Vegas with the Raiders, they could definitely use him. But I would expect the contracts to be somewhere in the neighborhood of a little bit more than $10 million over 1 year. Some of that could be incentives, but he's not coming cheaply.
No, he's not. And then with that money, people want Waller to get signed. They want Renfrow to get signed. They still have maybe a hole in the secondary as far as, safety or corner. Like, there's a lot of different ways they can go with that money. What would be the smartest way for them to go with that money? Would it be to go ahead and keep that offensive unit together with Waller and Renfrow? I didn't realize Dylan Stoner. Somebody put out that Dylan Stoner makes more than Renfrow out there, which is kind of like
that's not true.
That's not true. Yeah. So the internet and the internet eyes fool you. But what do you think the smartest bang for the buck for the Raiders here would be?
Yeah, I think they're going to extend Renfrow here during training camp. He'll be the next. At some point, I think Waller will get taken care of. Waller mentioned his agent is dealing with that. Just kind of looking at the numbers. Waller's at $6.8 million this year, $7 million next year. His average salary puts him 16th among tight ends in the NFL, which is very low. So that's going to jump. I mean, he's probably looking at somewhere around $14 million to start. That puts him in the neighborhood of Mark Andrews, Dallas Goedert, Travis Kelce, George Kittle, who's coming in at $15 million. So it's going to be somewhere in the 14 to 15 million a year. So 3 years, $45 million. This probably would get it done. They can structure it. They can add that onto the back end of the 2 years he has now, some voidable years. They can keep that cap number down. It's not going to be a problem. And just moving forward, they need to be cognizant of keeping cap numbers down to get some of these contracts under, because they're going to have $25 million to work with here by Friday. So I think that you're going to see some moves. I think they might go into camp, see some of these position battles for a week or two before they dip their toe in the veteran free agent market, other than maybe Suh. I think they're going to let the linemen battle it out and see what they have before they make a move at right tackle if they need to. But they're going to have plenty of money to work with here. $25 million goes a long way in the NFL if you're creative.
Yeah. So I'm going to jump ship here real quick and just jump into the Gruden versus the NFL. So I guess Gruden's attorney predicts that after this is over, Gruden will lose his Gruden's already lost his job. But and thank you, Goodell, for that. And that was the last big move that Goodell makes. Thank you. But Goodell will lose his job after this. This is going to be, I think that kind of shows, at least, I don't know how you feel about it, but that Gruden is not looking for a payout. Like he has been, this is what came out. Not only if he got fired just off of performance, he would still be able to work in TV, get his commercials, stuff like that. What happened was it took his job away and his ability to earn and just like talk football for a living. So what are your thoughts about that? I mean, Gruden looks like Gruden, it could be just lawyer talk, but they look like they're digging in here where they're sitting there saying, hey, we're in it for the long haul and we're going to go after Goodell.
Yeah, the ball's in the NFL's court. When the judge denied the motion to dismiss there and basically said they can't go to arbitration, which the NFL wanted to do, means this is going to go to trial. And Gruden has the right for discovery now. He can request emails, communications, text messages, phone calls, phone records. And the NFL is going to have to turn them over, which they do not want to do. So the NFL is going to do everything they can here to do a settlement out of court. But Gruden doesn't want to do that, it doesn't sound like. And it sounds like from reading the article that Hondo Carpenter put out that Mark Davis is kind of has some money here behind this as well to help Gruden in this process if he needs it. That's kind of what he intimated at, if you read that article. So it sounds like it's Gruden and Davis potentially teaming up here to go after Goodell in the NFL to figure out what's going on.
Should Davis be careful in this situation, or does he have?
He should.
He should very well be careful because it doesn't take. Like, it's not a rite of passage for him to own the team, right? Like he can be removed as owner, correct? Is that like, could they do like a Daniel Snyder situation? Not Daniel Snyder. Who was the guy who owned the Clippers? I know NBA is different than the
Donald Sterling.
Donald Sterling. Like when they voted him off after the stuff he said, could that be a thing? I mean, it's a private. I mean, if they're looked at as 32 different entities, and he owns that company, they can't force him out, right? Or can they force?
No, they can't. It would have to go to a vote before the other owners. The other owners could potentially do that, but I'm not saying he is or he is behind it. I'm saying that's what the article intimated without coming out and saying he's behind it. They basically said Mark Davis is behind Gruden here in the fight against the NFL, which is not a smart move for him, in my opinion. He's trying to get his name out of the news there with the Raiders, the move, trying to basically settle in with the owners. He doesn't need to start ruffling feathers like Al Davis used to do and start pissing off some people in the league office right when the Raiders hopefully are turning a corner here. So just another day in Raider Nation. When I read that, my eyes stopped. I read the sentence again. I'm like, wait, Mark Davis is what? But that's what was in the article by SI today.
Yeah, I would, I mean, it's like, as whether you feel, I feel like the way the NFL handled that Gruden situation was not the best, but the Raiders basically got better because of it. They became a more modern franchise with the coaching, with the GM, with all those things. Like, your team got better from it. Like, I don't know. I agree with you. I just feel like you should really lay low and Gruden can handle this by himself, because he has a lot of this is like a situation where he can kind of, the public would almost be on his side because the public hates Goodell anyway. So like, he has a lot of things in his favor. He doesn't need Mark Davis in this situation at all. So I'm not sure why Davis is in this situation, which is kind of scary for him, at least.
If he is, the article suggested it. So
it's Hondo. So
no,
yeah.
I think if the NFL is going to throw a ton of money at Gruden to try to make this go away and sweep it under the rug, at some point the money's going to be a lot where he might take it. It's going to be interesting to see what happens over the next 6 months, because they're not going to turn over communications records. I don't think there's any way Gruden wants anyone going through any of the league office emails at any point over the last 10 or 15 years, seeing anything in there, let alone the Washington football team investigation that started this whole mess. Do you think Daniel Snyder and the other owners want to relive all those emails and have them become public knowledge? There's no way.
During
This
the
is not going to go to trial. I
During
don't
the,
think it goes to trial.
can you imagine during the Kaepernick time? I'm sure those communications they don't want those communications to come out at all. So as far as that goes, speaking of Kaepernick, he had a quote unquote impressive workout if there is. I do like Josh McDaniels is going to shut that down immediately in the presser and said, hey, we only talk about people who were on the team. Nobody, it wasn't public, so we have no idea what transpired there, but do you feel like that you don't feel like this is baggage? I mean, if with Kaepernick, if he became a Raider, because I mean, if he can play and he'd be a solid backup, that's all you're looking for.
Yeah, you're just looking for a backup at this point, someone that can come in and help the offense situationally if they need it, or if something were to happen to Derek Carr and he missed several weeks, to have a capable backup. I always thought the timing, the fact that information got as fast as it did to Ian Rappaport, to Adam Schefter, was blasted all in. I never expected them to sign him. If they were going to sign him, they would have done it quietly, signed him, and then it's news. The agent wanted it out there. I think Mark Davis and the Raiders wanted it out there. It was a good PR piece for them nationally. I didn't, as the days went on, and, we got 24 hours away, I didn't think there was any chance they were going to sign him. No, so it was almost like, hey, come in, we'll work you out, we'll help you out in this situation. We'll say you had a good workout and see if that drums up some interest elsewhere. If the Raiders did want to sign him,
he'd be there.
Probably could. But the other side is, what is they offering? Kaepernick's not going to take a minimum deal. So this is going to come down to money too. He's not just going to walk in at 34 years old or however old he is and say, okay, give me the league minimum. This is going to come down to money too. He's going to want to be paid when backup quarterbacks get paid. He's going to want $3, $4, $5 million at a minimum, if not more than that.
Yeah, no question about it. He's going to get paid. OTAs, the press conference where you had that, they weren't just presenting, they had to answer questions, and he answered as many questions as you possibly could. Josh McDaniels, what were your takeaways from that? I just thought he was upfront and wasn't, playing games. It wasn't no nicknames, no white tigers, no, best this guy, that guy, all that foolishness that Gruden used to do. It's more like, they have a job to get done and they want to get it done. And a lot was made about the lap or the sprints they had to do because they were lined up and they were sloppy during the opening period during practice. Accountability was talked about a lot. What about struck you from that press conference from Josh McDaniels?
Yeah, I thought they ran laps and all. I thought that was kind of eyewash. I thought it was kind of like they just threw it out there. The players did it. To me, it didn't really mean anything. Like, if that was the case, why haven't they been doing that for years? So I thought it was kind of just something they threw out there. Didn't really mean anything to me. The thing that stood out was just kind of how honest McDaniels was. He just came out and was very blunt and told everyone what was going on. I kind of expected some Belichick type press conference where he wouldn't answer questions. Was very vague, but he wasn't. He kind of came out and said, hey, we're, Leatherwood's playing right tackle. We're going to cross train these guys. Parham's playing tackle and center. We're looking for the best 5 combination. He kind of, gave you a little bit of insight of what they're doing with some of the players, which is good. It seems like that he's going to be honest and with the press here, not try to hide anything. And that was the biggest thing to me, was just to listen to him talk and not get the Patriot way when it comes to a press conference. I was waiting for him to say, we're on to Jacksonville. That's who we play on August 4th and 5th. And he didn't say that. So
I do think that when the game before, as long as they're having a good season and they win the game before New England, he has to say we're on to New England. He has to. It's almost and just laugh and walk away. He might actually do it. At least it wasn't like a Joe Judge type. Between Joe Judge and Dave Dan Campbell, I'm not. And those press conferences are hilarious as far as that goes. So, the Raiders played the Chiefs last year. I think the Raiders scored 20 points and the Chiefs scored 117 points in those 2 games. So let's break down the Chiefs offseason, if you will. So let's start with the draft. And you can't, I think the first 3 guys kind of stand out to me. I'm really excited. I mean, I can't say I'm really excited because they're Chiefs, but they're really good. They're 3 really good players. I do like Karlaftis, at 30 who was going to help them on the. He has to develop. They'll give him every opportunity to develop alongside on the opposite side, Frank Clark. Trent McDuffie, who I thought was going to be a Patriot for sure. I really did. I thought he fit the mold of a Patriot, but as a guy who intently, both of us watched USC. We know a lot. We do see some quality players as far as in the Pac-12, and I like Trent McDuffie, and I just knew that Skye Moore was going to end up Skye Moore, and I forgot the other kid's name. Was going to end up in Green Bay somehow, some way. They were going to end up with really good quarterbacks. I don't know why. But everybody switched over and made these moves. But I do think Skye Moore, I'm not sure what kind of player he's going to be at the pro level. I think you could look at him as a guy who might be in the slot, do a lot of different things there. But he's a quality young receiver, and I think those first 3 picks they have fit. They got needs and got quality players out there in Kansas City.
Yeah, all 3 of them fit a need for him. Clearly, pass rush with Karlaftis helps. He reminds me a lot of Rob Ninkovich when Rob Ninkovich came out of college when he went to play for the Patriots. Kind of a more of an effort hustle guy than it is pure athlete. But he gets the job done. He's going to get to the quarterback. He's going to cause some turnovers at times. He's going to have games where he might disappear, but at the end of the day, he's going to compile enough stats at the end of the year to be effective. And when you're rushing with Chris Jones and obviously Frank Clark, you're going to get some one-on-one opportunities. So he needs to win those. McDuffie's going to start right away, I think, in the secondary, losing Tyrann Mathieu, losing the other corner Ward, who I believe went to the 49ers.
Mm-hmm.
Chavarius Ward, I believe his name is.
Yep,
he was
exactly.
the starting corner out there.
Mm-hmm.
So they're going to give McDuffie every opportunity, whether that's outside or in the slot. They can move him around. He's going to help them there. I don't know, how quickly he's going to be able to play outside man-to-man press, bump and run like they like to do there. I don't know if he's big enough to do that. He's going to have to work on some of those techniques. And then Skye Moore is just, a speed demon that's going to run down the field and try to, take some of those snaps. So probably running some of the McCole Hardman routes as they try to get Hardman more looks and move him outside. So I expect to see Skye Moore lining up inside a lot and running some vertical routes, those deep over routes that Tyreek Hill used to run. And I don't think he's going to put up huge numbers. He's going to have to learn the NFL game coming from, I believe, Central Michigan, learn the different defenses he's going to see. He's going to have to know what he sees pre-snap and be on the same page with Mahomes. That's going to take time coming from the level of competition he did. But he's a exciting young receiver that, 2 or 3 years down the line, we can look back and say that was a pretty good pick. Yeah. And I like some of the later guys. I like Leo Chenal from Wisconsin as a special teams guy that can help with the linebacker unit. They lost Anthony Hitchens. And then Darian Kennard, the big tackle guard from Kentucky, late in the draft, I think 5th round, might be able to help them out as a backup and get some snaps. They're putting some young linemen around Patrick Mahomes here after last year with Creed Humphrey and who was the guy to Tennessee that fell because of a medical Trey Smith. Maybe I could be wrong with the name there, but
I think it is.
and then Darian Kennard as well. So
yeah,
they got some building blocks there, and adding Ronald Jones, a free agency, gives them another back, a former Trojan that came over from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Not going to give him much in the passing game. He does fumble quite a bit, but he is explosive and he might be able to break some long runs for them. He fits into that backfield, but I still have a lot of questions about that secondary, having lost Tyrann Mathieu and trying to replace him. They basically went to the Texans, got a couple of DBs and Justin Reed and Lonnie Johnson, and I think that's going to work when the Texans were awful last year. So we'll see how those two guys mix into the Spagnuolo scheme. Daniel Sorensen's gone, so I wish he was still there trying to watch him cover guys down the field, but he's gone.
God. Have you seen?
Orleans, so we'll see
I know. Did you see? You ever see the CBS Sports? They always do like a little comedy thing on Twitter, on Instagram, where they show Tyrann Mathieu going like this, and in the background, it's Sorensen playing the wrong defense and getting beat down the field. So it's actually pretty funny. I do like Justin Reed. I know we played in a bad defense last year, so we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens here in Kansas City. I do like that part of the defense, but Nick Bolton showed some skill last year. Shirley Calhoun's on this team as well, which is interesting. I haven't seen Shirley Calhoun's name, but say, listen, some of these guys who what's his face drafted, they're still kicking around the league all over the place. Mario Edwards Jr. All these guys still kicking around. But yeah, I don't. Ladarius Sneed I think is underrated, but you can. I mean, the best player is Chris Jones. When you play them, you have to control Chris Jones and find out what you can do with Chris Jones. It's hard because a lot of times it's one-on-one with a guard. So it's hard to get him away from your quarterback. But that's the guy who I'm really concerned with this team. But besides that, I mean, they had a solid offseason. I think they were solid. I don't think them offensively is going to be a really weird dynamic to watch them without Tyreek Hill, because Tyreek Hill was single-handedly got him into the AFC Championship game with the way he played late in that game against the Bills. He's just scary. He just like as soon as the ball goes up, a deep pass goes up, you're like, it's a touchdown. Tyreek Hill's gonna catch it. He was great at high pointing the ball for a guy who was like 5'10" and all those things like that. It wasn't just he just had great speed. So I would worry about that part of it. I don't know who can they. Here's my question to you: can Mahomes be patient be patient? Because I say, like, when people went to that too high safety look, they just seemed like he would get impatient and then force the ball down the field. This is going to be a testament to him as a quarterback, because there's going to be times where Juju Smith-Schuster, the right play is going to be throw the ball to him. It's 3rd and 4. He has the 5-yard gain for the first down, but he forces it down the field to Scanlon or Skye Moore or McCole Hardman.
Yeah, I think the first 4 or 5 weeks, this offense is going to look different because he doesn't have, without Tyreek Hill, you're going to get different coverages. You're not going to get as many too high shells, I don't think, because there's really no one other than McCole Hardman that's going to beat you deep early, because I don't think some of these young guys are going to be able to play right away, or at least significant snaps. And then you got to think of the strengths. Smith-Schuster's just going to be running crossing routes. That's his strength. Get the ball quickly from the line of scrimmage, shallow crosses, slants, and let him be physical. That's not really what Mahomes likes to throw. So how do they incorporate him into the offense? How do they get Ronald Jones involved? How do they get Scanling involved? How do they still get the ball to Kelsey? So they're going to have to figure out how to fit all these pieces in, and it's not going to be the drop back and just chuck the ball down the field. They not only did they lose Hill, they lost to Marcus Robinson, who's now with the Raiders, and then Byron Pringle's not there as well. So they lost 3 receivers off of this team last year. So you have a bunch of guys coming in trying to learn a new scheme. Are they going to run the ball more? Are they going to try to establish the line of scrimmage with that
Andy Reid
line?
Andy Reid's not doing that.
Like, are they? I don't know. This is going to be interesting to see how teams play them early in the season, because I don't think you have to play too high against them right now. I think I'd take my chances of them trying to throw the ball down the field to some of these receivers, because that's not their strong suit.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens as they incorporate these guys in there. And then what we're seeing now with the Chiefs is Mahomes' contract's kicking in. He's not on a rookie deal anymore.
Nope.
You're going to start to see some $40, $50 million cap hits. So now they have to build the roster with young guys, incorporate them into the scheme. But at the same time, the young guys that they were successful doing that with while he was on a rookie contract, they can't resign those guys because they don't have the cap space. So you're seeing those guys leave in free agency, and now they're going to have to replace those guys too. So it's going to be interesting what happens with this roster over the next 3 years, and how they complement Mahomes and the offensive line. Can they put a good enough defense on the field? Can they find another diamond in the rough wide receiver who turns into a superstar? And what do they do with Kelsey as he ages? If Kelsey gets hurt and misses a significant portion of the season, this offense looks totally different.
Yeah. And I thought maybe they would I forgot the tight end's name, but I think he ended up with the Colts, who I liked in the draft a lot. I thought maybe they would try to
Jelani
Woods. I thought they would go after a big tight end, because just in case they needed to do that, because they always go with a little backup tight ends here and there. So here is the Kansas City Chiefs schedule from September 11th to October 23rd. I mean, it's interesting. So at the Cardinals, who are going to be on Hard Knocks, home against the Chargers, which with probably no weather to deal with for a West Coast team. Then you have at the Colts, at Tom Brady, home for the Raiders, home for the Buffalo Bills, that rematch, and then at San Francisco before their week 8 bye. If they get through
4-3,
if they get through that 4-3, or 5-2 with 5 wins, my goodness, man, that's going to be incredible. That's going to be an incredible feat for them in this season. I can tell you that much right there. So that's gonna tell a lot about what this team is. Arizona. I mean, some of these games. I mean, not every game is like you never know who's going to be playing in these games. So we're not going to go ESPN win loss. We're not doing that stupidness, but on the surface, that is no way around that. Those are when you're playing. I always look at a schedule and say, how many really good quarterbacks am I playing? And the worst quarterback they're going to be probably playing is Trey out there in San Francisco. And then the next worst is going to be Kyler Murray, and after that, they're playing some pretty good quarterbacks. And if you listen to what Michael Pittman said, I mean, Matt Ryan's doing everything right out there in Indianapolis, and so as far as that goes, so interesting with the Chiefs offseason. Talk Chargers before the Chiefs, and then we're gonna keep this going. Just kind of go through the Raiders schedule and kind of give you some tidbits about what the teams the Raiders are going to be playing, kind of look at the opponents and what kind of offseason they've been having as far as that goes. I did see and this could be just clickbait, but if the Eagles are interested in Cleveland Farrell, I will rent the car myself. I'll buy the ticket myself if they want to take him off our hands and put him out there and fly Eagles fly. I'm not sure how that deal would even look, but I mean, that's something that I would love to see if they could get that it's not even if he was making less money, it'd be fine, but if I get rid of that contract, that'd be great.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. The Eagles have $7 million in cap room, so they can't make that trade straight up because they would have to absorb his cap hit, which is $9.98 million. So it would have to come with a restructure of some sort. They would probably wait it out, would be in my opinion, because the Raiders would have to, if they wanted to move on from him, could cut him. But if they traded him post June 1, the Raiders would only have $5.2 million in dead space. They would actually save $4.77 million on the cap. So it might be a weird trade where it's like Cleveland Farrell and a 7th and a 5th for a 7th. Like you're giving up a better pick than you're getting back just to get the contract off the books. I don't think the Raiders are desperate enough to do that. They're going to have $25 million in cap room. They can easily play with him this year, try to find some small role. There's no reason to give up a valuable draft pick to move that contract. So I think it's just fate at this point. The Eagles probably need another defensive end. They're in a base 4-3 that fits Farrell. He really doesn't have a place to play in this new Raiders defense other than possibly, 10 or 12 snaps as an outside linebacker or a rush end or a base end on certain defensive packages where you're giving a guy a break. But I wouldn't move on from him unless I got, probably a 5th or a 6th round pick. And I don't think a team's going to give you that and be able to take a $10 million contract on. I don't think a team's willing to extend his contract without getting him in the building for a year. So I fully expect him to be on this Raiders roster come training camp.
Sometimes you put things into the air and you want to hear good news, and then you get reality. I was gonna say, so question from the from 718 out on the East Coast. They want to know could the David Njoku deal look? Is that like a kind of a way we can look into see what maybe a Waller would get? So I don't know if you have it in front of you. I have it in front of me right now. I have it right here. Yeah, right here. Is that something where we could is that something where that's maybe, let's see what we got here. We got 4 years, 54 million, 11 at signing. Waller's a better player.
28 guaranteed.
28 guaranteed. I mean, so I think Waller's a better player than Njoku, so
when I use the $14 million number, that's north of Njoku. His average is 13.7. So the starting point for Waller's contract would be just above that, kind of where Mark Andrews is at, which was a 4-year, $56 million deal. So you're looking in the 3 or 4 year deals somewhere. I would be surprised if it was anything less than 14, and the top of the market's 15. So
Yeah.
it's going to be $14 to $15 million a year. It'll come in slightly above what Njoku got hit on his contract.
Another question from Instagram. What is the were we worried about Jacobs not doing anything? No, that's not no. Denzel Good could be, we'll see where he is as far as that goes. People are surprised about Leatherwood playing right tackle. They're gonna, I think, I don't know. I don't have a lot of birdies in the league. I have a couple, and a lot of people don't really love Tom Cable as an offensive line coach, so they don't really necessarily. I mean, they give the Raiders even more credit for making the playoffs because they just feel like the offensive line could have been taught much better. So give Leatherwood, like I said last time, Leatherwood would have maybe he got overdrafted, but he was going to get drafted in the first 3 rounds in that draft. Give him a clean slate, a new offensive coordinator, an offensive line coach who can really maybe get something done here. And then see if he improves. They have some big dudes. I mean, Munford is huge. The kid Bam out of Utah is just monstrous. I mean, that kid is that they don't make human beings that big. So I mean, it'd be interesting to see how if he doesn't make this roster, stuff like that. You got Tyrone Wheatley Jr. So I mean, they're gonna try to do whatever they can to kind of get this offensive line corrected, because I think week 1, I don't know exactly what the game plan is going to be, but I do think it's going to include a lot of running the football at the Chargers to see if they can handle that rather than drop back 45 times.
Yeah, I think we're going to see more gap and power scheme. So they're going to want the big guys that can move bodies more so than working side to side, shuffling the feet, outside zone. That they're still going to run some outside zone, but I think you're going to see more of a power scheme. They're going to give Leatherwood a chance to earn that right tackle job, and they should. But they won't stick with him if it's not going well. So it's up to him. And it's really up to him in pass protection, because he can run block. We're not worried about that. So what does he do when they leave him one-on-one on an island? Do they have to help? Do they have to chip? Do they have to put the tight end on that side of the formation? What does he do on stunts? Because he wasn't very good on stunts last year, and trying to watch him and Parker try to pick up stunts was brutal on the all-22. But he's young. He's a young guy. He was going to get drafted, in my opinion, probably first, second round. He wasn't going to get out of the second round. So he was a reach where they took him, but he still has a chance to be a good player.
Yeah.
If he turns out to be an average right tackle, that's fine for where they took him in the draft. So let's just give him time and see what happens. And this new staff isn't tied to him. So they're not going to just run him out there to run him out there. If he starts making mistakes, they're going to bench him.
No.
So I'm not really worried about it at this point. And like I said, they're probably going to take this group into training camp, a week or 2 into it. And if they don't like what they see, they're going to go out and find someone on the free agent market, make a trade, because they're not going to go into the season with a giant question mark at right tackle if they don't have the answers.
No, I mean, and there's still some quality players out there as far as tackle goes. As I kind of look through the list here, are you buying the Chase Garber's hype right now? As far as like, I'm like, no, dude, no. I mean, this is Derek Carr's shindig here, and we're here along for the ride. So, Jarrett Stidham, Nick Mullins. I think they're gonna keep they might just keep 2 guys. And who knows? Stidham could be just a glorified teacher in this situation. So we'll have to see what happens there. Another question was, what do you see about, do you feel like Drake will be on the IR? He got hurt in the Bears game.
It was a home game. It was in the middle of the season. So
I don't remember.
It could have been the Bears game.
Could have been a Bears game. So like,
or the I want to say
Redskins, maybe.
I'm sorry, Commanders.
Commanders game. So I keep saying that. Sorry. But I mean, whatever. I mean, as far as that, if it takes that, it takes that. I just feel like, they will have to have a back who can catch the ball out of the backfield if he does start the season on IR. I mean, they want to be able to do that. I mean, Jacobs did have some success in that last year. It seems like sometimes he still it's not as fluid as when Drake catches the ball. It's still a little bit fighting the ball when it comes to him, and obviously that ball security is going to be huge. I'm hearing that Brown is going to be the guy who they're going to give the ball to in goal line situations sometimes too. Like that's where he's gonna. That's why they drafted him. We'll see. I don't know. They can give it. We'll see if that. I don't know how Jacobs gonna feel about that, but that's something. People talking about Jacobs or Waller holding out. The holding out is just impossible now because they're losing so much money. Like I mean, it was collectively bargained to like for them to be in camp. I don't see that taking place either, right? I mean, nobody's holding out anymore.
No, Jacobs is not holding out because he knows that he needs to establish a market for himself next year because it's highly unlikely that he returns to the Raiders team. So he needs to get on the field and produce so he can get his next contract. Holding out and missing games or missing time and getting lost in the playbook and getting in the doghouse isn't going to make him any money on the free agent market next year. So he's not going to hold out. Drake broke his ankle, which is not a long-term injury. He'll be back for training camp. I would be surprised if he's not there when training camp opens. Like there's no need to run him out in an OTA, but he broke his ankle in like October, November. Like there's no reason he's not on the field 10 months later in training camp. Don't look past Brandon Bolden. He caught a lot of passes in New England. I want to say he had like 40, 41 catches last year. So he's a guy that can catch the ball in the backfield. Brown, to me, I think is destined for the practice squad. Is kind of just a physical back to have that knows the system. If they need to bring him up for a week or two, they can. I wouldn't overlook Tyler Lancaster, too, the defensive lineman they added this week, who played for Patrick Graham in Green Bay. He's a big, 6'3", over 310-pound run stuffer. There's no pass rush here, but kind of just a lunch pail guy to get in there and two gap and hold up the offensive lineman. These are the kind of signings that are going to go under the radar, but he's the kind of guy that's going to end up on the practice squad, in my opinion. I don't think he makes the 53, but if a guy gets injured or they need to bring him up for a couple of weeks, you have a veteran who knows the system, who's played for the defense coordinator that you can throw up there, and you don't have to throw some rookie out there that's never played. So some of these depth signings we're getting right now are actually going to end up on the practice squad.
Yeah, and depth is the issue. So as far as that goes, I do like the depth that they have at linebacker, but I do think other spots they are. And then Kyler Frackel, if Jones is down for a half or a game or two, can he get pass rush, stuff like that? And no word on Trayvon Mullen, right? Nothing on about that injury. I don't know what injury is.
Something in his foot. Maybe it was turf toe or something, but he should be back by training camp. If they were
not
really
frozen, right? They're not frozen.
No,
right? They're not frozen. Not frozen. Cool.
I hope not.
All right. I hope not either.
Let's just hope it wasn't a Liz Frank injury because we don't need those anymore.
No, we don't need that at all. I mean, Darren McFadden, my goodness. Real quick. So, any other Raider news and notes, NFL news and notes before we roll on to a couple of non-football things?
Yeah, I think I'm getting excited for June 2nd, but I need to temper my expectations. I don't expect them to go out and make some moves over the weekend with the newly found cap space. We'll probably hear about some extensions before we do some, other than Sue, if they do add Sue. But I don't think they're going to turn around and add 3 or 4 veterans right away. It'll probably be as we get into camp. But we're going to blink, and that preseason game against the Jaguars is going to be here. That game is in 5 weeks. 2 months. So it's not that far away. I mean, I think it's August 4th. So we got about 2 months before that happens. So it's coming. I think the kickoff's 100 days away. I think I saw the day on Twitter.
And then once that starts, then you have a situation where the rest of the year goes by. It'll be 2023 because when football starts, the year is basically over. So could Goodell just say, "Hey, listen, we have all these media platforms. You make a formal apology to everybody you've offended, and then we get you on one of those platforms, and with a huge buyout."
I don't think that's happening.
That's not happening either, right? So real quick, NBA Finals. It's gross and disgusting to see the Celtics in the finals. I think this series is gonna be close. The Celtics are scaring me a little bit as far as that goes. But what are your thoughts about who might win this series? I think if Boston doesn't win Game 1, I think it's gonna be the Warriors in 6.
I'll take the Warriors in 5. I don't think this is going to be much of a series. The Celtics haven't shown a ton. They've struggled a lot to score points. I think Golden State has enough bodies to throw at Tatum defensively, and it's really going to come down to what do Marcus Smart, what do the second and third guys on Boston do if Tatum struggles? Whereas I think Golden State's got a ton of firepower. If Wiggins keeps playing well, I think they win it in 5.
Yeah, and it sounds like Peyton's going to come back as well. So I watched it opening night. You just saw it recently, right? Top Gun. How good is this freaking movie? Like, they did a great job in this movie. They really did. They killed it.
Yeah. Yeah, my favorite sequel of all time is Beverly Hills Cop 2. I think it's better than the first one. But it's really hard. Beverly Hills Cop 3 might be the worst third rendition of a movie, but Beverly Hills Cop 2 by far is my favorite sequel. And this is going to be up there. I'm not a huge Top Gun guy, the original movie, but I like the soundtrack, the music, Danger Zone. When you hear that soundtrack, the movie. But I thought it was done well. I thought it kind of dragged a little bit in the middle, but that last hour when the F-18s are up in the air, when they're doing the mission, when you knew Maverick was going to fly the mission, you knew that was going to happen. And then, I just think I thought it was a great movie. I haven't been in the theater. You have to see it in the theaters because you need the sound and the jets and everything, the surround sound around you. But it was really well done. I've seen a lot of bad movies in the last year or two, and this one I thought was pretty good.
Yeah,
I thought it was respectful for the first movie, how they tied everything back in.
Yes. And they had the one flashback sequence they needed to have with him playing Great Balls of Fire. Like they need that one freak sequence. If you didn't see the first one, you had to kind of have a reference point to it. So that was always really good as well. Didn't realize that Val Kilmer was ill like that. I didn't realize he had throat cancer. I did not know that in that thing, but he still came through and gave what he could. And for him, as far as that goes, but yeah, it was a good movie. I was impressed. I could see why they really fought and waited to make sure that it was not to video like a lot of movies did as far as during COVID. So I could see why they did that.
I'll give you one Val Kilmer movie you've probably never seen that I like. It's called Thunderheart. I don't know if you've ever seen Thunderheart. But,
I gotta write this down now. Thunderheart.
Write that one down. I believe he's an FBI or CIA agent, but he's actually has some Indian blood in him. He goes to a reservation in the Dakotas and tries to figure out what's going on there. There's some illegal activity going on the reservation, and he has some flashbacks to his Indian heritage, and it's pretty good. I like it. It was probably a late 80s, early 90s movie. I worked at Blockbuster when I was in high school, so I saw.
Did you really? Blockbuster, man.
So, Blockbuster Video.
Yeah, my Blockbuster Video. That's funny. And Blockbuster, Redbox, all these people like that. Oh, yeah. Now it's just streaming everything. Yeah, cool. All right, Rare Nation. Listen, we'll be back next week with some other stuff. We're gonna dive into the Broncos. a little bit. Their off season. It's interesting. They have been pretty good as far as their fans have not been going nuts. The Charger fans are like in everybody's chest. Like the Charger fans are like, they're going to go 17-0. So we'll see what happens as far as that goes. But yeah, the Broncos are a little bit more realistic as far as that goes with the fans. And next week I will be on a roundtable. Got invited to a roundtable for the AFC West. So that should be fun. We'll see where that goes. As far as the Chargers, I don't know if I can sit too long for with Chargers, Chiefs, and Broncos. We'll see how crazy everybody goes as far as that goes. But we'll let you know about that as well. So, all right, I also want to thank Phil Robinson for joining me for that on the USC podcast as well this week. So we'll shout him out too as well. But Ryan, have a good day, have a good night, and we'll see you next time.
All right, take care.
Peace.